Razabane for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm delighted to have with me once again this month, my man, the knowledge, Mr. Spencer Fearon. Spencer, people are going to start talking how often we speak.
Yeah, for real. But no, it's all good. Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely.
Let's scare people.
How are things? How's the weekend been?
Yeah, weekend's been good. You know, I mean, like everybody else tuning in to watch the boxing, and yeah, it was good.
We've had a strange year where we thought we were going to have Fury Joshua, should have taken place last week, Wilder Fury, and then we were all excited about Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao being the biggest fight of the year so far. Obviously, we spoke about that in our last interview about Errol Spence not being able to take part in this fight due to his injury. Steps in your Dennis Ugas, a man who was chief support, and his opponent obviously pulled out on the same day as Errol Spence pulled out, so he was already training to fight on the show. Everyone thought Manny Pacquiao, maybe Manny Pacquiao thought himself that this might be quite easy for him. What did you make of the fight first when you heard it was made?
What did I say to you last week? What did I say to you? Right, like I said, Ugas was winning this fight. He's too big, and he's been a consistent professional. And if you look how he puts his punches together, how he works with the jab, he doesn't do anything exceptionally like wow, yeah. But if you're a purist, he does everything technically precise, and that's what he needs to do to beat Manny Pacquiao. So it's no surprise to me. At all. As soon as that fight was announced, I said, nah, wrong fight for Manny Pacquiao. Wrong fight for him. And not only that, it was kind of sad to see like Manny kind of shuffling around like an old man, because we know how good he is or was. But it wasn't him shuffling around like an old man because he's just become old overnight. It was more to do with the work that Ugas was doing, because you can put somebody else in there as a top rank welterweight, and most probably Manny would have come out successful and came out. But it was Ugas. He did his homework for the 11 days or what it was that he had to be notified for this fight. He did his homework and he came out victorious. And we should take nothing away from Ugas. It was a very, very good performance. Very good performance.
Stylistically, would you say Errol Spence would have been a better fight for Manny and given him a better chance?
Last week, that's what I thought. Because not only that, I think Manny Pacquiao needed something to put that fire in his belly so he could be fearful. I think he was aware of the size of Ugas, but nothing else. And looking at you've got 4 losses on your record. You ain't been in with a level of competition that I've been in with. Maybe that he could have made him be a little bit nonchalant to the proposition that he was faced with. But if we look at it correctly, it's like I would rather see Manny Pacquiao retire like this. Like I wish Sugar Ray Leonard retired. What was that? Was that 91? February of 91 when Sugar Ray Leonard lost to Donny Lalonde, and then he waited like 6 years and came back out of retirement when he was 40 years old and fought Hector Camacho, and he was completely done. He gets stopped, and he was completely and utterly done. What was that? I think that March. I remember that fight. I remember that fight because I was meant to go to that fight. I actually went to Sugar Ray Leonard and Terry Norris fight. That was in Madison Square Garden. That's why I remember the day. I went to that fight, and it was sad to see Leonard lose. Right? It was sad, but he was in with a real hot guy at the time in Terry Norris. That when like we had a few years reign as a WBC light middleweight or super welterweight champion. He was on a tyrannical reign then, and that was the start of it for him. So maybe because he's just beaten a legend, that could like boost him up even more. And we're gonna see, because he's gonna be a very hard man to beat, Ugas. A very, very hard man to beat. But what I would like to see with Manny Pacquiao is I would like to see Manny Pacquiao retire. He's got to be today one of the world's greatest humanitarians. He's got so many things that he can go and do. You know, he's running for office in his country as well. I mean, he's running. Let him concentrate on those things, man. 4 decades, the man. 4, that's ridiculous. We're not going to see that in our lifetime. We are not, it's not, we're not going to see it. You know what I mean? 40 odd world title fights? Come on. You know what I mean? Let's call it as is. Joe Louis been heavyweight for 13 years, just under 13 years. Everyone was like, wow, incredible, that record will never be beaten. And it hasn't been, right? It hasn't been, right? And even now with titles being so fragmented, it hasn't been beaten, right? Manny Pacquiao, the level of world title fights that he had as participating in, I can't see no one else surpassing that for now.
Spence, I know he was inactive for 2 years, and obviously he's got older. He's 42 years old when he got in the ring last night. Had he been active in those 2 years, because obviously the 2 prior fights were Thurman, Broner, Matisse was in there somewhere. Had he been active in the 2 years, would we have seen a different Manny last night?
I believe we would have, but regardless of that, it's like sometimes people can get torn away at the limbs. But it was still a decent Manny Pacquiao last night, though. It's just like Ugas didn't allow him to do anything. If we look like when Ali came out of retirement, same hiatus, you know, it was 2 years. When Ali came out of retirement after regaining the world heavyweight title in 1978, after losing it to Leon Spinks, he comes back and then he's retired. When he's retired, then he gets wheeled out of retirement to fight Larry Holmes. Was that October of 1980? That was an old man, Muhammad Ali. He was old. Do you know what I mean? And he was shot, completely shot. Manny Pacquiao wasn't a shot fighter last night. Manny Pacquiao is just not the fighter that we used to see. And he was in with a very, very good fighter, right? But what else is Manny Pacquiao to do? Because now other guys they don't want Manny to retire. They want him to still stay around. You know, Errol Spence still want to see him around. You know what I mean? Terence Crawford still want to see him around. But I'm saying, what else do you need? You've done everything. You've done everything. But another thing, Ugas beat Manny Pacquiao better than Floyd Mayweather did. Right? He did. And we got to give him parallels of levels of skill and who was peaking and all the rest of it. Then he did a better job on Manny Pacquiao than what Floyd did. But Floyd didn't face that Manny Pacquiao, and Ugas didn't face the Manny Pacquiao that Floyd faced, but he still did a better job.
Spence, there's not many fighters that walk away from the sport on their terms. Recently, obviously, Andre Ward, Joe Calzaghe comes to mind as well, that they just walked away from the sport on their terms. You spoke about Sugar Ray Leonard. One of my favorite fighters was Eric Morales. And seeing Eric kind of fight he's such an amazing player.
Lennox Lewis walked away from boxing on his terms as well.
So I know you say you want to see Manny retire, but sometimes, you know, he's been doing it for 40 years. Kind of all he knows is to fight. He enjoys that. He enjoys the training camp. We know he does his humanitarian stuff and his stuff for his country outside, but that fighting spirit, is that just going to leave his body? Do you think it's going to be an easy decision for him?
No, but what can happen is it can be transformed into something else. Right? It can be transformed into something else. You know what I mean? Maybe you could see an big exhibition between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, right? Maybe something like that. But I would say, like, for Manny Pacquiao to participate in top level right now, because I'm thinking people would take screaming out. I was on a Boxing Voice earlier today, and they were saying, well, if that was Errol Spence in there, he would have stopped him, right? Who has Errol Spence stopped in the last 3 years? Tell me the last opponent. Exactly. Right. When they say, if that was Terence Crawford in there, Terence Crawford would have knocked out Manny Pacquiao. We're saying this, but it's like we'd have got a different Manny Pacquiao. We'd have got a different Manny Pacquiao, I believe. I just think, like, Manny at this present moment now, he can look right off into the sunset. He's been a fantastic ambassador for the sport of boxing, and he can do so much for his country. And I think he should concentrate on that.
I know you said we'll never see anybody, you know, fighting 4 decades again. He's obviously an 8 division world champion as well. Would we see anything close to that?
No, I don't think we are going to see anything close to it. I can't. What he's done has been phenomenal. It's ridiculously phenomenal, right? And I doubt if we're going to see anything remotely close to what he's accomplished.
Spence, obviously, moving on now, announced obviously last week as well, or this week rather, Canelo-Plant, it's finally going to be taking place for the undisputed titles in November in Las Vegas. Before I go and ask you the details about that particular fight, I just want to touch your knowledge on the history of the super middleweight division and the undisputed. You know, people say that at the time Joe Calzaghe had, was it 3 of the titles, and he was the undisputed. So
he wasn't. No. Joe Calzaghe won every one of the belts, but at certain times he gave up another crown, so he was never ever the undisputed champion. But he did hold all of the titles, similarly to in the heavyweight division. Riddick Bowe he held all the 4 belts at the time when the 4 belts just came in. He had all the 4. He held a version of the titles, but he was undisputed champion. Then he gave up the crown. He lost the crown. He lost back the grade of the crown. He relinquished one of the belts when he famously threw the WBC belt in the bin, and Lennox Lewis was given the title. Then he lost to Evander Holyfield. That was for the IBF and WBA. And then he fights Herbie Hyde for the WBO title. So, in effect, the only heavyweight in history to have held all of the belts, all of them, in a 4-belt era has been Riddick Bowe. But he's never held them all at the same time. It's never been done before. Joe Calzaghe did the same thing. He held all of the belts. You know what I mean? I think it was the WBA, because when he fought, what's his name? Byron Mitchell. When he fought Mitchell, I think Mitchell got stripped of his WBA. So I can't remember. It's like, but no. So if you look at the history of it, the standout stars of the super middleweight division has been Nigel Benn, who was WBC champion, has been Chris Eubank, who was WBO champion. The standout stars, Andre Ward. Carl Froch has been a standout star as well, you know what I mean, who's won multiple world titles in that division. So when we look at the history, but the person that really, the fight that put the super middleweight division on the map, what year was that? That was June of '89, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns. And that was for the WBO title and the WBC title. There hasn't been an undisputed champion in that weight division at all.
Spence, everyone said Billy Joe Saunders going to give Canelo problems. Everyone said Callum Smith was going to give him problems. Everyone's now saying Caleb-Plant will give him different types of problems. Do you see Caleb with any chance of being victorious against Canelo?
No. I'm going to be real. I can't. I could see maybe causing a little, because he's got very good movement. But I can't see nobody giving Canelo problems at this present moment. Canelo is something special. And not only that, to see what Canelo did to Smith made me think, right, you know what? It's serious. But to see how he cracked the face of Billy Joe Saunders, and I rate Billy Joe Saunders, nah. He's a different animal. He's a different animal, man. I could see guys who most probably could give him trouble. I think Caleb-Plant's got a good style, he's a very good mover as well. But Canelo likes that, and he's very patient as well. But you know what? It's a big thing. The fight's on PBC. They've got that fight. I don't know how that's going to sit, because I didn't think the fight was going to happen because of Canelo's affiliation with DAZN. Either way, I just hope that we get to see it in the UK, and maybe DAZN get the rights for it to be shown in the UK. Or it gets shown on Sky or business. Either way, I want to watch that fight. It's gonna be a good fight. I rate Caleb-Plant. I do rate him, but I just think you're looking at something very, very special when we're looking on Canelo. He's very, very special.
Spence, just finally, I'll end on this. You just mentioned this guy. Good to hear Adam Smith's voice last night.
You know what? It was kind of weird. It's like I kind of missed him because like we've had so many back-to-back fights on DAZN, So I mean, used to listen. Was it Chris Lloyd?
Chris Lloyd, Mike Costello, Andy Lee.
Yeah, him, Andy Lee, Darren Barker. So I'm hearing these guys and seeing Tony Bailey do these little skits with 80. So yeah, you know what? Because I haven't heard Andrew Smith in a little while, because I don't really know what Sky's doing with the boxing. I actually missed listening to him and Matthew Mackley. I did. I'm gonna be real. I actually missed listening to him because nobody can have up a fight like that guy. He's very good at. Trust me, I missed listening to Andrew Smith, and so it's kind of nice listening to him yesterday, man. It was.
Spencer Fearon, IFL TV. Thank you very much.